Hello, Powers Resource Center community, and welcome to this week's Communication e-blast. So this week I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the world that we are in right now. Many of you may have heard this term VUCA before, but I wanted to introduce it to you if you haven't, and for some of you it may be helpful to just hear some of my tips. So let's talk about what VUCA stands for. VUCA is an environment which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, all of which we are currently experiencing. And so let's talk about each of those for a little bit. When we think about a VUCA environment that's volatile, what does that mean? So volatile really means that the nature, the speed, the volume, and magnitude of what we are dealing with is not predictable, and it's causing continuous turbulence, risks, instability. We're questioning everything. Sounds like today, right? Uncertain. Let's talk about the U. Uncertain means that unpredictability leads to a lot of surprises. There's a lot of general unknowns. We don't know what some of the outcomes will be. And it can create this feeling of being stuck on teams and in organizations where you really don't know what the right decision is. So maybe you don't make one. You're waiting. You don't know what direction to go in. It's very difficult to make a decision. So when we're in an uncertain environment, it can tend to paralyze us in some cases. The C stands for complexity. And when something is complex in a VUCA environment, that means that there are a lot of interwoven, intricately connected, complex issues and events. And everything influences everything else. And we don't know what happens when we pull this lever over here to this lever, right? So this creates, this complexity creates a lot of overwhelm and confusion. And then the last piece is the ambiguous or ambiguity. And this is really something we're all dealing with, is we don't have a lot of information and we need to make decisions. We don't know when this virus will go away. We don't know if some of our employees are going to get sick, or if someone's going to come into the office and get a majority of our people sick. We don't know when our state is going to be fully open, when we're able to be 100% back in the office. So we have this very big lack of clarity happening around us and an abundance of unknowns. And this is a really tough situation to be in. And if we do not recognize that we're in this environment and we don't address it with the tips that I'm about to provide you, it can really destabilize people, make them feel anxious. It can totally tank morale. It can thwart career moves. So if you had some real go-getters on your team that were perhaps getting ready for that next job promotion, that might be put on hold. It feels like you're constantly retraining and reshaping and changing the way things are done. And that can be very unsettling for a lot of people. You might feel like you're kind of climbing through the mud, that it's a huge uphill fight to kind of get things done. And you might also feel that you're making bad decisions, or that the risk to some of the decisions you are making, that they're not the right ones, is very high. And this can paralyze a company. This can paralyze a team. This can paralyze a leader. It can jeopardize long-term projects, certainly put a damper, if not completely knock out innovation and creativity, and overwhelm people in organizations, as well as the leadership team. And that can all take an incredible toll on your culture. And so what do we do about it? What are some of the things that we can do to manage this VUCA environment? So I'm going to talk about a few ideas here. So when we are dealing with high levels of volatility, the most important thing that we can do is craft a vision, even if it's short term, and take action. So you need to be thinking about, is there a vision that we can all get behind, even if it's for the next 30 days, the next 2 weeks, that we can rally around as a company or as a team and move forward on that together and create some goals around that, but allowing flexibility because we definitely may need to shift and react quickly. That can help with some of the volatility. So your vision and your goals actually become much shorter in time frame. All right, the second one, uncertainty. How do we address uncertainty? That's pretty easy, right? Ask questions and listen more deeply. So asking questions and listening more deeply. This is one of the best things that we can do when we are in an environment of uncertainty. We need to all commit to seeking out people's input that is different from ours. Customer input. Maybe you have people on a team and half of the people on the team think you should go one way and half don't. Have a debate about it. Allow people the opportunity to try and create some certainty around their decisions. This really can help to anticipate some possible future scenarios, future challenges that you might face, and help your team get behind what would be some ways that we could respond. So this might be help you engage in some scenario planning. This is a great thing to do when there's a lot of uncertainty. All right, let's look at complexity. So what do we do when there's a lot of complexity? And I don't have to shorten this, but we're going to communicate and collaborate, okay? So when we are dealing with a lot of complexity, we basically want to communicate and collaborate. So what we need to make sure we're doing is over-communicating, over-communicating, over-communicating. If you think you're over-communicating, you're probably not doing it enough. So it is so important that you are communicating more than you ever had before, and perhaps the same thing, right? We need to re-engage our team. We need to make sure we're all on the same page. We need to regroup and reorganize, and we may need to be communicating the same thing in our daily huddles for the next 2 weeks. That is okay. That is something that we can do when we are surrounded by a lot of complexity, right? The other key piece is collaborating. A group of people collaborating and brainstorming creates a mastermind. And collectively, when you're dealing with complex decisions and issues, therein lies the best solution, is the mastermind, right? It's not just one person making the decision, but that we collectively decide together. So collaboration and complexity are very, very powerful together. And then the last piece, ambiguity. So how do we actually deal with ambiguity? And this really boils down to two things, right? The first is building an ideas culture. So now is the time to allow the craziest ideas possible to occur, right? For people to talk about them, for people to imagine if, we get a vaccine in the next 12 months. How is that going to change what we do? Imagine if we don't get a vaccine for another 3 years. What might we do in terms of how we work with our clients? The products that we currently are selling, might those change? The services that we provide, right? So allowing an ideas culture to emerge and this creativity to flow very frequently is really important to helping you and your team and your company become innovative in the midst of all of these challenges, in the midst of this VUCA environment. It requires us to step outside our comfort zone. It requires us to start to increase our job knowledge and our experience and systems thinking, right? Making sure we understand the whole system of the organization, not just our little part, but how everything works. Because once we have that kind of expansive knowledge, new ideas emerge. And that is one of the best things we can do when we are living in this ambiguous environment. So those are a couple tips around managing in a VUCA world. I hope that they were helpful today, and make sure that you sign up to get our tips in the future. And I hope that you all have a very safe and productive week. Thank you.